Hello and welcome back to Animated Literacy. This is lesson number 66 from the Story Song and Action Book. In this lesson we're going to be learning about Grouchy Owl and why he is so grumpy and grouchy, and about Brown Mouse and why she's so happy. So we'll be doing that in just a bit. Before we do that, we're going to do some review of our last lesson. In our last lesson we drew things that began with Ike's sound. And so we drew and labeled a picture of a pie, and of a tie, and of a fly, and a bike, and a kite, and a pipe. And we drew a light on our bicycle. So we practiced Ike's sound and his letter patterns by doing that. So after the lesson, I went back and practiced drawing those things again and adding a lot of words to them. So here I drew a picture of a bike, and I labeled my bike a new bike, and I put there the verb that it goes. Then I labeled my kite a pointed kite that flies. I labeled my pie a sweet pie that smells, and pies when they're baking can smell really good. And then I labeled my pipe a round pipe, and because it's round, what can it do? It rolls. And I labeled my tie a funny tie because it's got a little smile up here on the knot at the top of the tie. And I called it a funny tie that hangs because ties hang down. And then we had a fly over here, and I labeled it a cute fly because I thought the fly turned out cute, but somebody told me no, flies can't be cute. And this cute fly eats, and I hope he doesn't eat my pie. Now, as I'm looking for those words that we were doing, I went to our charts of words from books because I have a really hard time coming up with great verbs and adjectives to include on my page. So I like to read books that have a lot of adjectives and verbs in them, then make a chart, and then I can just look through my charts to find words that I want to use on my page. And so this is one of the books that I used to find words that I just read to you from my labeling page. And this is called Olive Baby Nose to Toes, and it's by Victoria Adler. And it starts out like this. Baby's got eyes, bright little eyes, round as pie's eyes, just the right size eyes. Like an owl, wise eyes, peek-a-boo, who loves baby's eyes? And it had all of these adjectives to choose from and all of these verbs to choose from. I also used a book from Skybrary that is called Leaf Jumpers by Carol Gerber. And it had all of these adjectives to choose from and all of these verbs to choose from. And I talked about earlier that if you've made a drawing book like this and you've used the pages from the Draw to Read and Write book to show how to draw about 150 different things, and then you put your charts in the back, when you go to labeling your adjectives and verbs, you can just go to those charts and read through and go, oh, there's a word I can use. And that makes your labeling a lot more interesting. So then we did a verse that we made up from the spider on the floor, only we did it about a bike. So our verse read like this. The light on the bike goes shine, 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 shine. Shine, 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 the light on the bike goes shine, 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 all through the night. Now, as we're labeling, we're giving special symbols to different parts of speech. So we're going to go back today and review just a little bit about those parts of speech. The first thing that we learned how to do was to draw nouns and put circles around our nouns because those have a shape. And we looked at Brian Cleary's book so that we could learn what kind of words those are that we put inside our circles. And his book was A Mink, a Spink, a Fink, a Skating Rink, and it started like this. Hill is a noun, mill is a noun, even Uncle Phil is a noun. So all of those nouns that we put inside our circles are called nouns. Then we went to our next word we studied were adjectives. And adjectives have arrows that point to our nouns. And we used Brian Cleary's book about adjectives to help us understand what an adjective is. And Brian Cleary's book starts like this. It says, adjectives are words like hairy, scary, cool, and ordinary. They describe like tan and tall, funny, frisky, smooth, and small. And in our adjective book from Brian Cleary, we have all of these adjectives to choose from. So if we go down and read those, we can come up with all kinds of fun things to use in our picture. And here's one of the pictures that one of my kindergarten students did late in the year after she had learned all of the sounds that we've been learning through our characters and the labeling that we've been putting up on our labeling word wall. And so she did this page, and on her page she has a funny thing with a pretty face, eating mouth, fast legs, pink shoes, a funny nose, and then she writes a sentence down here at the bottom that says, I see a funny thing, can you? Yes. So learning all of these different kinds of words really helps us when it comes to writing. The next word that we started using were called verbs. And so once again, we went to Brian Cleary to find out what a verb is. And we used his book, To Root, to Toot, to Parachute. And it starts out reading like this. Whether you scale a wall or a fish, make a design on a cup or a dish, take out the garbage or sharpen your knife, verbs are a part of our everyday life. And we put a line underneath our verbs because we often line up to go places, or cars follow lines down the middle of the roads. And so lines take us places, and that's what verbs do. And so here's Brian Cleary's list of verbs that he used in his book, To Root, to Toot, to Parachute. And so whenever I need a verb, that's a good place to look. Now, when we did our song for the spider on the floor, we started using a new kind of word that we talked about just a little bit. And those kinds of words are called prepositions. And here's Brian Cleary's book about prepositions. And he starts out explaining what a preposition is like this. He says, prepositions show us where, like in your bed, beside the chair, under, over, by the clover, about, above, or next to Rover. So prepositions kind of show us how things are hooked together. And so we put a chain by our prepositions because a chain links things together, and prepositions hook words and the objects that those words name together. And here's a list of all of the prepositions that Brian Cleary includes in his book, called Over, Under, By the Clover. So when we're learning those kinds of words, it's really helpful. And you can think of a preposition this way. If we have a star and we have a jar, how many different ways can we connect the star to the jar? We can put the star in the jar. We can put the star by the jar. We can put the star under the jar. The star can go over the jar. The star can go above the jar. The star can go on the jar. So there's all kinds of different prepositions there. And we'll be using prepositions in a lot of our songs that we rewrite. So today we're going to now be talking about our new character, which is the owl and the mouse. So we actually have two new characters today. So first our topics is you can talk to your parent or your teacher about what you know about owls and what you know about mice. And it's always really helpful if you have a book to help you do that. And so here's a great story about owls, and it's called Owl Babies. And this is about 3 owl babies who wake up in their nest and discover that their mom's gone. And they're really worried, and they wonder, where's mom? How long is she going to be gone? When's mom going to be coming back? What might she bring back? What do you think mom might bring back to these baby owls? Well, if you read this book, you can find out the answer to that question. Another topic that you can talk about before learning the story of Owl and Mouse is about houses. And this is a book called The House That Jack Built. And this is in many different books because this is an old traditional tale. And in this one, it's being retold by Jenny Stowe. And it starts out like this. This is the house that Jack built. You can see that's a pretty neat little house there. It almost looks like a little cottage. This is the malt that lay in the house that Jack built. Now this story is called a cumulative story because each page repeats what was on the previous page and then adds something to it. So you can see how that's being added on to here on this next page. This is the rat that ate the malt that lay in the house that Jack built. And so that's kind of fun where you keep getting a chance to repeat the earlier page and add on to it. You can also talk about mice and tell your parent or your teacher what you know about mice. And here are a couple Skybrary books that you can read about mice. In our story today with the owl and the mouse has to avoid being eaten by the owl because owls like to eat mice. And in this story about owls and mice, it's called The Lion and the Mice, and the mice have to figure out a way to not be eaten by the lion. So it's got some similarities to the story I'll be telling you. And this is called Bouncy Mouse, and it also is a Skybrary book. This is another Skybrary book about mice, and this is a famous old tale, and it's called Town Mouse and Country Mouse. And these mice get into an argument. The town mouse says, "Oh, it's best to live in town. I like living in town." Country mouse says, "No, it's not. I like living in the country." And so they get into an argument about which is the best place to live. And you can read this book to find out if they solve that problem. This is a wonderful old nursery rhyme that has a mouse in it. And it has a clock in it. And it reads like this. And this is called The Completed Hickory Dickory Dock. Because Jim Islesworth, who wrote this, decided, well, that's a really fun rhyme, but it's too short. I want to add to it. And so let's see what he adds to the rhyme. It starts out with the old traditional rhyme, and it reads like this. Hickory dickory dock, the mouse ran up the clock. And here's the mouse running up the clock. What happens next after he gets up to the top of the clock? Bong! Well, when the clock goes bong, it scares the mouse, and what do you think he does? The clock struck 1, and down he run, hickory dickory dock. So then he starts making up his own verses, and his first verse he makes up reads like this. Nibble on bibble on bees, the mouse bit off some cheese. The clock struck 2, away he flew, nibble on bibble on bees. And so if you read this book, you'll get a whole bunch more verses to that song. Now there's a really important book to use along with the story I'm going to tell you today called The Three Little Pigs. So how many of you know the story of the three little pigs? Well, these little pigs are sent off by their mother, and they have to build a house. So the first pig finds some man selling some straw, and he thinks, wow, I can build a great house out of straw, but the man tells him, I don't think that's a good idea, but he does it anyway. And after he builds his house out of straw, a big bad wolf comes along, and what does the big bad wolf do? He huffs, and he puffs, and he blows the house down. So the next little pig finds a man selling some sticks. And he goes, I think I can build a great house out of sticks, and that's just what he does. And here's his wonderful little stick house. But when the big bad wolf comes along, what does he do? He huffs, and he puffs, and he blows the stick house down. You can see all the sticks going every which way there. Well, the third little pig is a lot brighter. And he's smart enough to build his house out of bricks. Now when the big bad wolf comes along, he huffs and he puffs, but he can't blow the brick house down. So now we're going to start into our story. Now, I talked about that our owl is grouchy. Now, a lot of people say owls are wise, and you can see that this owl is very wise because he has a cap here with a tassel because he's graduated from school. And when he went to school, because owls sleep during the day, he was with only owls, and it was quiet during the day, and nobody would bother them. And then they would wake up at night and go to their classes and do all of their activities and eat their meals, and then go back to sleep all day long, and nothing to bother them. This book tells why Owl became so grouchy. After he graduated, he went off to live in the world, and in the world, many animals and people are awake during the day. So this book starts out like this. Owl tried to sleep. And here he is in his tree trying to sleep. The bees buzzed, buzz, buzz, and Owl, what did he do? Tried to sleep. The squirrel cracked nuts, crunch, crunch. And what did Owl do? He tried to sleep. Well, how's he doing sleeping? The crows croaked, caw, caw, and Owl tried to sleep. So this is why he got so grouchy. All these animals kept waking him up. Well, let's see what he does about that at the end of the story. At the end of the story, it tells us, then darkness fell, and the moon came up, and there wasn't a sound. So what did Owl do to pay the other animals back? Owl screeched, screech, screech, and woke everyone else up. So I like that story to go along with our story. So now we have a picture here of Owl, who after he left school, built his nest way up high in this huge tree. Brown Mouse's favorite story was the Three Little Pigs. So she knew that if you build your house out of bricks, you'll be safe from the big bad wolf, or in her case, from Grouchy Owl. So here's her brick house, and here she is enjoying her house. Now she's in her house knowing that she's safe and sound from the owl, and that the owl can't get her, so she's singing her favorite song, which is Hickory Dickory Dock, and it goes like this. If you know it, sing it with me. Hickory Dickory Dock, the mouse ran up the clock. Oh, that's not the one I was going to do. Her favorite song to do was all around the cobbler's bench, the monkey chased the weasel. The monkey thought it was all in fun till pop goes the weasel. Now, when she's in her brick house and she knows she's safe, she can make that pop as loud as she wants. But after she eats her evening meal, she likes to go out and take a walk. So she has to be very careful as she's walking around her townhouse. Because who does she not want to wake up? She doesn't want to wake up Grouchy Owl. So she's going around and she's singing this song to herself. All around the cobbler's bench, the monkey chased the weasel. The monkey thought 'twas all in fun. But when she comes to pop, she gets so excited she forgets to be quiet. She goes, pop goes the weasel. And what happens? Owl wakes up in his tree. And now it's round and round the mouse's townhouse. The owl's chasing the mouse until she remembers, just in time, that she's left this tiny door open. And she bounces through the door just as Owl is about to pounce. Owl is coming so fast that he can't stop. And he runs right into the door, hits his head on the door and goes, ow! So now Brown Mouse celebrates her escape from Grouchy Owl by singing the song once more about Hickory Dickory Dock and running up and down the townhouse clock. So let's do that once more. Hickory Dickory Dock, the mouse ran up the clock struck one, the mouse ran down, Hickory Dickory Dock. So now, whenever you see our picture of Grouchy Owl and Brown Mouse, I want you to think about how Grouchy Owl bumped his head on the mouse's door. Put your hand up in the air like this, grab your head like you just bumped it, and go, ow! And that's the sound that we're learning today. So now let's test to find out if that sound is a consonant or a vowel. So let's put it into Are You Sleeping with our bell sounds. Ready? Are you grouchy? Are you grouchy? Grouchy owl, grouchy owl. Owl's bells are saying, owl's bells are saying, ow, 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 ow. Did we put an ing and an ong there? Nope. So it stands alone. So what do we call that? Vowel. So ow is a vowel sound. So now let's learn the song for Grouchy Owl and Brown Mouse. So first we're going to go all around the townhouse. So you can make a house like this and you can go around like this. So sing this back to me. All around the townhouse, all around the townhouse, the owl chased a brown mouse. The owl chased a brown mouse. Now put your mouse down here and your owl up here. The owl was about to pounce. The owl was about to pounce. Now show me ouch. Ouch, cried the owl. Ouch, cried the owl. Now, how are we going to spell Grouchy Owl and Brown Mouse's sound? We can do it either with an OU or with an OW. So let's do OU first. Make an O like this and a U like this. OU, OU. And sing this back to me. OU is for how the mouse. OU is for how the mouse found her way back to her house. Found her way back to her house. Now let's make an O and a W. O, W, O, W. And sing this back to me. O-W is for the owl. O-W is for the owl who bumped into the mouse house. Who bumped into the mouse house. Now let's do that together again. Ready? All around the townhouse, all around the townhouse, the owl chased a brown mouse. The owl chased a brown mouse. The owl was about to pounce. The owl was about to pounce. Ouch, cried the owl. Ouch, cried the owl. OU is for how the mouse. OU is for how the mouse found her way back to her house. Found her way back to her house. OW is for the owl. OW is for the owl who bumped into the mouse house. Who bumped into the mouse house. So what's our sound for the owl and the mouse? Ow! So now let's see if we can do that with our recording, and I'll point to the words while you gesture and sing the song. So here we go.
All around the townhouse, the owl chased a brown mouse. The owl was about to pounce. Ouch, cried the owl. OU is for how the mouse found her way back to her house. OW is for the owl who bumped into the mouse house.
Okay, so now when you get your picture of the owl and the mouse, you can do your rainbow writing over the OW and the OU that's used to spell their sound. And then on the back of your page, think of something from your life that is kind of like this story. So you could write what you know about owls and mice on your page, or you could write about your house, or you could write about the kind of house that a friend lives in, or you could write about someone you have chased, or maybe someone or an animal might have chased you, so you can write about chasing. And you can write about maybe you bumped your head sometime. You could write about a time when you bumped your head and what that felt like and what you did to make it feel better. So I hope you enjoyed our story of the owl and the mouse and talking about the kinds of words that we use for our labeling process. And in our next lesson, we're going to be practicing those OU and OW sounds for the Grouchy Owl and the Brown Mouse by drawing and labeling some pictures. So I hope to see you then.